Hey y'all, welcome to Horrible Gaming. My name is Nora, and on today's video we are playing some Disney Dreamlight Valley. So for today's video, I decided to move Rapunzel over to my main valley, and we're going to be doing a design for her house. I really want this build to be overgrown and super lush because obviously it's going to be in the forest, and I think we're going to do almost like a circle oval sort of effect for her home. That way I have plenty of ways I can transition around it. So I hope that today's video brings you some Disney Dreamlight Valley inspiration and you enjoy today's build too. Originally, when I was going into today's speed build, I was wanting to use the new trellis-like fence item that we got from the DLC, but it was just way too big for the location and the build that I was doing. So I think I'll just save this for a future build idea instead. For today's build, we're also going to be using this little lantern item that you can get from using your hourglass while hunting for mist, and it's technically a gift that you can give to your villagers, but instead I'm going to be using it as decor. Also, as we get started today, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like, subscribe, and notify button if you want to see more content like this in the future. It really does help me out. Originally, I was really wanting to do her home actually in the Eternity Isle, but being that my valley is pretty much empty from being flattened, I figured it would be smarter to go ahead and design it in the Forest of Valor so I can get some progress obviously on my main valley. I'm also going to be sticking to a color palette of purple, blue, yellow, and white just because it's going to match with her tower the best. And to also break up some of the pathing and trees, we're going to be accenting with the beach grass, and this is so good if you're going for an overgrown look. Now for the lanterns, I'm actually quite bummed with how big they are. I was actually expecting them to be a little bit smaller, so we will be accenting with them throughout the pathway, but I won't be using as many. Originally, when I went into today's build, I was hoping to do a ton of them to give a really nice glowy pathway effect, but being that they're much larger, we're going to instead just accent with them throughout the pathway instead. I also really wanted to use the orange flowers that you're seeing along the pathway, but I did not have enough of them. These are from the DLC on Eternity Isle right in the desert. I wish I had more of these because I feel like they really complement the Rapunzel lantern item really well. So since I don't have enough of these, instead I'll be using the base game butterfly flower and accenting with other florals that I've collected throughout the valley. Also, if you're struggling with your item limit, I'd recommend skipping out on the little cobblestone effect that I do with the dirt path later in this video. You honestly don't really need this. I just wanted extra detail for today's video. I will probably be removing this myself once this video is posted just so I can make my item limit go even further. Anyways, at this stage of the video, I'm kind of just filling in behind Rapunzel's tower so it looks a little bit more overgrown and lush. So we're going to be using a lot of the rock items and bigger trees just to fill in the background a little bit more. I think a great addition to this build could have been using maybe some sort of a waterfall in the background that obviously didn't look tropical. I really hope to see some point in the future more customization options for items because I totally would have used the Lion King waterfall that we get. It's like this rock wall with little waterfalls going through it, but it was too dark and tropical like for this build. It would have been great to have an option to do maybe a gray like rock pattern on it. Because originally when I was going into today's build, I was very inspired by the landscape behind Rapunzel's tower in the animated movie Tangled. So anyways, to capture that vibe that I really wanted to go for, I'm going to clutter a bunch of rock-like items and trees behind Rapunzel's tower just to fill it in to sort of give it that look. Using these larger items too will help fill in the space more, and you'll be using less towards your item limit. So I always recommend, if you're doing something a little bit natural, to make use of these rock-like items just because it really will help give you that full and overgrown look that you're trying to achieve. For the little gaps and spaces in between these larger rock items, I'm going to be accenting with the little bushes that we get that are native to the Forest of Valor. And then I'm also going to be dragging over some little tiny flowers that I've collected from the Peaceful Meadow. These are like little tiny 1 square tiled flowers, so they're good for little accent pieces if you can't obviously fit in like a butterfly flower. And the butterfly flower is 4 tiles wide, so obviously if I can't fit that in there, I need a smaller solution. So this is my favorite way to add more details, especially if I'm doing something a little bit more overgrown because they get into these really small little spaces. Now that I got most of the details done by Rapunzel's tower, we're gonna start working on the curved transition look. I kind of want this to be a very windy path sort of vibe, and then I want to have like a dedicated area for her painting location. For the painting location, I think using her large purple rug would be a great addition to this build today, not to mention it also adds a lovely pop of color. So I think I'm going to place the rug over here in this empty little grassy patch, and then I'll kind of surround it with different florals and the beach grass. Something else I tried to work into this build by the rug was also the tree item that has a swing attached to it. I really wanted that to work somehow in this build today. However, the moss on that tree was way too bright. It just wasn't a really nice looking green for the Forest of Valor, so I skipped out on it. I feel like if you're designing Rapunzel's tower in Eternity Isle, where we first meet her, that tire swing tree would be so perfect for her build, but obviously since I'm working in the Forest of Valor today, I decided to skip out on it. For the next stage of our build, I'm going to add some more details into the rug location. So we're going to add some more trees. Another tree that I've been using throughout this build is these ancient trees that we get from the DLC. I really like how these complement the Dreamlight trees that we got from Simba's quest line. It just looks so good in the Forest of Valor. So I'm going to be accenting with these throughout the build too, just to add a more lush and whimsical look to the build. And now that the trees are placed, I'm just going to go around the rug adding some more beach grass and different florals. I'm really trying to keep around the rug simple and just accent with the flowers instead. If you didn't want to place the rug here, I think that this location could be another great spot for another cottage or another player home. So definitely do whatever suits your valley the best. So now that I have pretty much all the details almost done in this location, I'm going to definitely do a walkthrough of how everything turned out and looks from a closer perspective in today's video. But I also want to show you some daytime shots and how this build literally glows at night. I feel like if I could have had smaller lanterns to accent throughout the build today, it could have added such a nice addition to today's video. I think something that you could add to kind of achieve more of the glowy look that I was hoping to do is by adding some candles along the dirt path, because I just feel like that would add such a gorgeous glowy effect for the evening and complement the lanterns too without it obviously being too much. Another thing I noticed through my building process today is my build is way too far up. The goal was to connect the curve onto that log bridge that you're seeing to the left of this build. So make sure when you start building this, if you're going to do the same location to push the tower back a little bit more, I would suggest doing your pathing first. So after today's video, guess what I'm going to have to do? I'm literally going to have to push all of this back by a few squares, but it will definitely be worth it because everything is going to connect beautifully and transition really nicely too. Anyways, after a few more details, this is how our Rapunzel build turned out today. I think it really complements her tower and also her personality well too. I hope that today's build brought you some Disney Dreamlight Valley inspiration. Before today's video also ends, I do want to give a huge shout out to all of my channel members. Thank you so much for supporting me as a creator. Just your support in general means the world to me. With that being said, thank you so much for watching and have a horrible day. I'll see you next video.
Thank you.